everyone, my name is Dr. Christi Silva. I'm Chief Behavioral Health Officer at Fusion Care Group. Thanks so much for joining us today. I wanted to talk a little bit today about forgiveness because I think nowadays, especially when we're all cooped up in home and trying to figure out how we're going to use our energy and what we're going to accomplish, that I think looking at the concept of forgiveness is really a great idea right now. What I'm hoping is that this time in our lives is a chance for us to go back to square one, center ourselves, really focus on our family, our household, and the things that bring us joy. And really to start to release some of the other things that we are not a fan of. And forgiveness is a great integral part of that. So when we have anger and frustration with someone or hurt feelings, I, in the past, was always I had a hard time understanding the concept of forgiveness, that it's not really about the other person, it's about us. And really now I know that that is accurate, but I don't think anyone really explains it well in a way that makes sense to other people. So basically, what I tell my clients is we are one bubble. And within our bubble, we have emotions and feelings and this whole history of life of things that we've experienced. And when we come across someone else, they have their own sense of history, life, and experiences they've had. And when these two circles come together, this circle, this person might do something to us that injures us, hurts us, triggers us. And what we want to know is, first of all, what happened to us. We got triggered. So you want awareness, and that's where therapy comes in line, is bringing about awareness of what triggers you and what's happened to injure you is very important, because if you're not aware, then your circle is going to get red with anger and lash out and say things that maybe later you'll regret or change the relationship in a way that you didn't want to. So the first is bringing about that awareness of, I was triggered. This happened to me. It affected me. And then the why. So if you don't necessarily know why, again, therapy is really important because we start to look at the whys. Why did that thing that that person said or do really affect you? Where does that stem from? What does that come from? Some people are able to do it on their own. Some people like the support of a therapist because a therapist is not in your head. And so we can see things from an outside perspective and be curious about where you're coming from and maybe throw things out there that you hadn't thought about. And so it gives you a different sense of awareness because it's just a different layer. So the first two, being aware you're triggered. Second is curiosity of why you're triggered. And then the third is to resolve that trigger. So in the past with forgiveness, if this person apologizes to me or if they make amends, then I can release this. But what that does is it leaves you in a very vulnerable position. You're sitting out there waiting for this to happen or this to change. And the likelihood that it's going to is probably low, because sometimes people don't know what's in our own hearts. They don't know our story. They don't know what we've gone through. They don't know our history. And so they're in their bubble reacting to their stuff and their triggers and affecting our bubble, maybe without even knowing how they impacted us. So I do really feel like focusing on yourself and figuring out how to resolve your own triggers and really go through that process. To me, that's forgiveness. To me, to get to the point where you can resolve some of these issues, release them and not have them anymore, that's true forgiveness. An example I'll give is a client who was incredibly neglected by her parents. They were very selfish parents, unfortunately, and they didn't do an optimal job, in my opinion, of taking care of her from her perspective. And so we've done a lot of work about how she was damaged because she didn't feel like she was supported emotionally. And so she's gotten to the point in therapy where she was able to say, oh, wow, here I am trying to date, and I met this person, and they said this, and this triggered me because I don't know anyone who takes care of me. I don't know anyone who's looking out for me. And so I just lash out when someone says something to me and I don't feel like they're caring for me or taking care of me. And so really what she was able to do is just go back to that person she's dating and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I was triggered. What you said hurt me because of this past history. And the guy said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even mean that. That wasn't my intent at all. So that leads me to the fourth part, which is we really want people to come to the point where they can communicate some of their hurts to other people. And if not, then you can do this work on your own for certain. And the healing can take place on your own, and it's really wonderful when you get to that point where you're just not carrying on that negative energy anymore and releasing some of this burden that you've been carrying around. But also, if somebody comes in and they says, you know what, I didn't realize I hurt you, I'm sorry, and makes amends, doesn't that make forgiveness a lot easier? Of course, and that's our ultimate goal. But if we don't have that, we can do the forgiveness on our own. What I do tell my clients is that last part. Now, what if you have people in your life that are intentionally cruel, hurtful, or harmful? Probably stay away from those people, right? So those are people that you know that you've told your triggers to, you've described them, and they don't seem to care, they don't seem to listen, and they seem to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you find that it's a toxic relationship. Either they're abusing you physically, mentally, emotionally. If you're finding yourself in those relationships where there is intent behind that and you feel like you've communicated and the relationship is not healthy, then you probably want to create some distance. So again, when I use those analogies of the circles, putting space between the circles, because ultimately in therapy, the most important part for us is that we want your circle, your bubble, to be filled with wonderful energy. We want you to be free from all of the stress and the anger. We want you to have moments of it, of course, but not to live with it and carry it around all the time. We want you to have more energy of friendship and light relationships, happiness, joy, communication, and that's our goal. And so if there are people in your life that are not doing that or hurting you, then you want to consider that, is this a good relationship for me to be in? And so making that decision is a tough decision. It's a heavy decision. And again, having the advice from a therapist is super important, because a therapist can really look from the outside perspective and say, ooh, maybe you're just running from this, you're avoiding this trigger, or you know, why are you putting yourself in a relationship over and over again where this person is hurting you? And you've communicated to them that you're hurting and they're not stopping, or they don't have self-control. And I think that it's important to look at these situations with a therapist so that you can know that you're making the right decision and that you're feeling like you're being taken care of and supported through the process. So ultimately, forgiveness, yes, I've come around. It is something that all of us can work on our own, internally, without the apology from another person. Of course, if we get that apology, hallelujah, that's wonderful. If not, working on it with yourself, within yourself, with a therapist is a great option. And ultimately, what you'll find is it starts unlocking forgiveness in other areas of your life. And the more you can forgive people, the easier it gets. I know for me, my trigger is driving because there's so much distance in between cars. And what I try and do is just tell myself, hey, there's another circle, another bubble of someone who has a whole different story, a whole different life that I don't know about. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they're experiencing today or throughout their lives. And so it allows me to forgive them a little bit more, to have more grace, and to allow them to do things that might bother me and to not carry that energy over into my own circle. And so every day I wake up with that hope that I can kind of maintain my energy within my own bubble and my own circle and not get impacted by other people's negativity, and to be compassionate and to offer support to other people. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to reach out and get some support for forgiveness, please reach out with the information below. And also please subscribe to our channel if you like our information, and we will have more to come. And you're always welcome to reach out and let us know topics you would like me to address. Thanks so much, and you guys have a great day. Take care.